Hello and welcome back to the Live Reality Game Podcast. My name is Steven and I'm here for Surviving Bloomington, Season 6, Episode 2, Order versus Chaos, to discuss everything that happened in the episode, and I can't do this alone. And joining me today is the one, the only, the great James. James, how are you doing?
What's up, y'all? I'm doing well, and Steven, thank you for having me. And before we continue on, I just want to full disclosure to those who don't know who I am. I am a person who stutters, so there's going to be quite a few stuttering moments throughout this conversation, and it's okay. It's not your audio, it's not your stream, it's not anything. It's just part of how I talk sometimes.
James is a veteran of Surviving Reelfoot. He played Season 10, Fowler's Point. You're also an author. You have a published book, Dear World, I Stutter, a series of open letters from a person who stutters. And so you can find that book on Amazon or anywhere else you want to direct people to find that?
Amazon or BarnesandNobles.com works.
There you go. And so, James, we're now 2 episodes into this season, Order versus Chaos. I'm just curious, which side do you feel speaks more to you, the Order or the Chaos?
Oh, I think Order. I'm very much in my daily life. I'm order. I'm about routine. I am about structure. I want to follow the rules, and order fits me. So I think I would be order with maybe a little chaos thrown in there if I made it super deep.
Now, when you played your first season, did you feel like you played more orderly, or do you have sometimes you wish you had played more chaotic?
I think overall I played an orderly game, but I wish I was a little bit chaotic, especially with how my game ended. But is what it is.
I mean, yes, your swap situation was extremely chaotic. I can definitely agree with that, and very unusual for how a swap and a second swap and a second swap boot goes.
Yeah, was not expecting a second swap at that point. I was expecting the merge, but that was a year and a half ago, and it's all good.
Well, my co-host last week, Drew, is currently working this week, hence James is helping pick up the weight and carry the conversation.
Hey,
but one thing that really stuck out to me in this episode is Drew, and we're going to just spoil a little bit. Drew begins Banana Gate,
yes.
or at least stage 1 of Banana Gates in terms of eating the first banana, throwing the peel away. Do you feel like if you were on an Order tribe or you were on a Chaos tribe, would that encourage you to act more in that specific way? Like if you found yourself in a Chaos tribe, would you say well, I guess I should be a little bit more chaotic?
I think so. I think you want to live up to your reputation, whether if your reputation, if your identity in this game or however it is tied to Order, you want to be orderly. You want to live up to that expectation. And I think the same way with Chaos. Now, how will that work out for Drew? We'll see. I know just from being out there, you don't mess with people's food. You're messing with a food source. That is a dangerous situation you're getting yourself into. But we'll see what happens.
And thankfully, for in Drew's case, Bloomington is a 4-day game, which Casey's actually much more generous in terms of food and people being able to bring food into the game. Reelfoot, on the other hand, which we both played, there isn't much food, and people do care a lot more about it.
Oh yes, I think we got maybe 2 handfuls of rice and a ninth of an apple, and that was the extent of my food.
Well, so you have met at least one player in this cast before.
Yes.
Talk me through your thoughts on the cast and who you know.
So I know you clearly through doing this. I know Drew. Drew and I played in season 10 of Reelfoot together. However, we never met in game. We were on different tribes, and Drew was pre-jury. I was post-jury, or I was jury. He was pre-jury. So we never really interacted in the Ponderosa setting. And I met Drew once all wrapped at our reunion, rap party, whatever you want to call it. And we've since talked quite a few times over Facebook Messenger over the past a year and a half or so. I recognized John V, because I know he does a bunch of these things. I recognized Danny from their time on CYS, and I watched them a little bit on this most recent season of Survive. I recognized Melanie from Survivor Philadelphia season 1, and I recognized Rachel. I think that's everyone that I recognize in some capacity. But Drew is the only person who I've actually met in person.
Yeah, we've spoken. We never had an opportunity to meet in person. We've simply had at least a good 2 hours conversation in the
Yes.
past.
Yes.
Well, so looking at our cast and 2 episodes in, who's standing out to you?
So Mackenzie. Mackenzie is my Mackenzie. I think Mackenzie is going to win this game if people aren't careful. Mackenzie reminds me of Jordan from last season. I think I texted Casey that maybe 20 minutes into the episode last week. Like, Mackenzie reminds me of Jordan. If they're not careful, Mackenzie's making Final Five at least.
You're not watching Survivor Pennsylvania, are you?
I'm not.
So I would recommend they have like the first 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes out of Survivor Pennsylvania. Mackenzie was on the season that ran last summer as well.
Okay.
So if you need more Mackenzie content to see kind of a different facet of her game, I'd recommend checking that out. It's been interesting.
I might check that out.
Yeah,
I might check that out.
In all your free time that we all have.
Oh yeah, all the free time I have. Yeah.
Is there anyone else you're keeping an eye on?
So on the Chaos Tribe, Kim, just from this episode, is starting to stand out to me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of has an idea of what's going on. And I can't believe I have to say this in a non-ironic way, but Daddy Matt, he's someone who I have a lot of thoughts on him. I think he is someone who is doing a decent job of like balancing player and personal, of balancing who you are as a player and the relationships as a player with the relationships as a person. But I think if he's not careful, he's going to overplay himself out of this game.
And if you need more Big Matt or Daddy Matt, whatever you want to call him, content, he also played Outlast this past summer. And so those have episodes coming out as well. Yes, so I've been watching it for more Big Matt contents. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's because even though this game was only 6-7 months ago, it's like, I don't recall knowing who had cast that second vote for Riley, nor do I think I really cared at the time. And we see a scene where Big Matt talks to Mackenzie and John, kind of talking to the thought process, and everyone's like, yeah, that's fine. No harm, no foul. Like there's very little consequence for him making that vote, which is interesting.
Yeah, and that scene really stood out to me in particular. And it's actually my quote of the episode is from that scene. It's from John to Big Matt. So just talking about how emotionally difficult it is to play this game. Yeah, because yes, it's a game. We all signed up to play this game. We know what we're going to self into. We know we're going to be lying to people, betraying people, screwing people over, and people will be doing that to us, right? However, at the same time, we're not playing with Miss Scarlet and Professor Plum and the thimble and the bag of money. We're playing with Steven. We're playing with Jamie, with Danny, with whoever. People who come in with their own lived experiences, their own morals and strengths, weaknesses, values, and how do those personal elements of them mesh in this game? How can you be who you are as a person while also playing this game? It's a very hard thing to do, and something I struggled with was finding a happy medium or separating the two. So my favorite quote of the episode is from that conversation where John tells Matt, if it doesn't work for you that round, then stay true to who you are. Remember, this is just a short little game, 4 or 5 days. You can leave that here, but you have to live with you as a person after this game. Now, I could be overthinking it. That's like one of my favorite pastimes. I have a coach that says, hold on, I have to overthink about it. But I think it's a very true thing that I don't think it's discussed that much in the LRG world of how difficult it can be to separate the player and the personal, and how as much as you want to leave the game at the game, sometimes it's hard to do that. I know for me, it took me a year to make peace with my game and how everything shook out.
Yeah, and I know my first game, it was like it took me it was still like a hard 1 to 2 months to really kind of accept that I had lost and how I had lost and how things went through, and kind of work my way through the coulda shouldas. But I want to get more into I guess it's a, how to put it, tension between authenticity, but is it tension between authenticity and gameplay? I don't think that's the right tension we're talking about here.
But I know you're talking about. I think it's trying to balance like your love of the game and wanting to play the game and doing what it is of lying, betraying, backstabbing, being paranoid, all that, which we all know. But also, I guess just like is it genuine of being a genuine person? Because you do form these real relationships, but at the same time, you have to use those and betray those relationships to advance yourself in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that weird dichotomy of how much of you are in every interaction you have, how much of it is you as a person, how much of it is you as a player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I'm going to parallel it to Winners at War, but Ben Dryburgh and Denise Stapley kind of are really beat up towards the end of that final five, final six. And one could argue they kind of just give in and let things roll. But you can also say, like, this game has exacted a massive toll for them, and they're just like, we're not willing to make compromises beyond ourselves for this game. I don't know. You see an interesting tension there with that kind with the game versus themselves at that point.
And it's interesting to watch, and it's fascinating to watch as a person who just watches on my laptop. But as someone who's also been in that same predicament, it's difficult. And I don't think that comes across like on the screen, just how difficult it is to vote someone out that you have this relationship with. And if we go back to the first episode for a minute, after Order lost the immunity challenge last week, there is that 32-second scene of just pure silence with maybe like a piano playing in the background. And it said so much without saying a single word. And I think that's one of the best scenes that Casey has ever done. And I texted him that, like, as I was watching, like, this is one of the best scenes in Surviving Bloomington history from what I've seen. Just because it just shows how it gives an audience idea of just how emotionally difficult this is. Everyone wants to be in these LRGs. Everyone wants to play this game. For most of us, it's the only opportunity we would ever have to play a Survivor game is to do these LRGs. Most of us aren't going to be on CBS Survivor, fact of life. And so we all know how badly we want to be there. And then to end that dream for someone, whether it's 5 hours in or 5 days in, it's hard. And it is. You got to learn how to, I guess, make peace with it in a way, forgive yourself. I don't know, but it's a difficult thing that I don't think comes across the screen that much, of just how truly hard it is to vote someone out and end that dream for someone.
I really feel like there's been votes I've been happy to cast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the only votes I've had where I haven't felt bad about it are when I've been actively targeted by the other side. And it is a me versus them. And therefore it's a lot of like, all right, one of us is coming on top and here we go. Let's see what happens. Right. And so like that kind of heads up, like that, I actually feel like, okay, I don't feel bad about targeting you because you're targeting me and it's all part of the game, right? It's like these early votes like are just the most painful ones. You're like, oh, we are coming together, voting you out, and there's nothing you can do about it. And also, we're also lying to you about it too because we're playing the game hard, and you're not going to see it coming.
Right. And but I say that just from my own experience. I only had 3 tribal councils. First one, I just jumped on the vote. Second one, I was on the wrong side of the numbers for. I got blindsided, and then my third tribal was when I was going. So I knew I was going, so my vote was just was just a burn vote.
You're just like curious. You vote for Sebastian in that tribal council. Is there anyone else you would have? Was it just the easiest vote because he wasn't in your original tribe, or
are we talking like my thought process in the game or my thought process a year and a half later?
Yes.
Okay. So in game, it was just I didn't have like the closest relationship. I didn't know Bash. We had, I think, one conversation around the fire that night, just as people, just as James and Bash, the humans, not as James and Bash, the players. So I didn't have a tight relationship with him. Vote for him. Now a year and a half later, man, there's so many things I could have done differently. Could have tried to rally up Bash and Keenan and try to vote Angelus, and she had the extra medallion thing. I could have voted for Ryan, try to make something happen because I knew he had the idol, try to at least flush that idol. If I have found the idol that I thought was if I knew that the blue idol was still out there, I could have looked for that and idled out Lauren. It's kept me up for. It took me a year before it didn't keep me up at night.
Do you think it would be like figuring out that balance between yourself and the game? Do you think that'll be easier if you went and played a second time?
I don't know, because I struggled a lot with that, because I think that's part of why I didn't really try to rally around to get Angela, because as a person, I was super close to her as a person. On a personal level. We were very, very close in that game. And I just couldn't do that to her. And then game-wise, I thought it would put an even bigger target on my back. But now, I like to think I could do that. But if I'm being honest, I know I don't have it in me. I will always pick player. I will always pick personal over player. And I'm okay with that.
Looking at back to the Bloomington season so far, you mentioned the conversation with Big Matt, Mackenzie, and John. Are there any players you feel like are kind of striking that balance, or players that are far off on one side of the spectrum in terms of they're playing very personally, or they're playing coldly logical game body and just like, hey, whatever it takes?
I think right now we're still trying to figure that out, because in the real time, this is like y'all are only 7 or 8 hours in?
Yeah, this is probably early mid-afternoon.
Okay. So I think it's still a little early. But someone who, if I had to pick someone, I would say Jamie. I think they're going to be our growth character, of seeing someone who says, I don't know if I can do this. And then being able just to prove to themselves that they can do this. I think Jamie is going to be our fallen angel, but I don't know if Jamie is our pre-merge fallen angel or our Final Four fallen angel. But I see Jamie as our growth character this season.
Drew says he thinks the second trial was around 4 p.m. I honestly have you have no watch sense of time out there. So yeah, could be. I mean, only KC knows when exactly things happen that day.
Yeah. But right now I don't see anyone who's like finding that happy medium. I think they're still trying to figure out for themselves, especially since it sounds like for a lot of them this is their first time ever playing
half and half.
ALRG.
So about half the cast are kind of locals, with most of them being the first time. I think Alex is the only local who she played Survivor Indiana, which is a one-day game, and she's done that a couple times. And then I think everyone else who's out of state had some experience. I don't know if Brady had played a Survivor game before. Brady had played the Caucus Challenge.
Okay.
So it was definitely a large variation of experience being walked into this game.
Right.
One of the major twists of the season was this bounty twist. What are your thoughts on that so far?
I love this twist. It reminds me of one of my favorite Survivor twists of all time, from a season that probably not many people know about. It reminds me of a reverse partners twist from Survivor Maryland All-Stars. The best college Survivor season out there. Out of the 60 to 70 seasons I've seen of Survivor, including US, international, LRGs, and in college, it's in my top 10. Watch Maryland All-Stars, top 10 season. Maryland 2 through 5 is arguably the greatest 4-season stretch of Survivor, and I will die on that hill. I know I say that all the time, but it's so good, and people need to watch Maryland All-Stars.
No love for 6 and 7?
It's there.
I mean, I'm just waiting in purgatory for season 8. I don't know where we're getting Maryland 8, but someday, hopefully.
No, it's this soon, of February 12th, I believe.
What? Hold on.
They released the trailer, I think, New Year's Day, New Year's Eve.
It's happening? All right.
After what, 7 years or something like that?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay. This is going to be what my one we do afterwards. Survivor Maryland season 8 trailer.
Yes. I think it's like February 12th.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right.
Yes.
So I'm going to hunt down Naomi Calhoun and portion of the podcast podcast that with me as well. Okay. Well, this is day by day, so thank you.
I will join for a Survivor Maryland podcast. I think Maryland All-Stars got me into College Survivor, and it's like the gold standard as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, agree. I mean, Maryland All-Stars there's something really special to it, and you can tell that the host just poured his heart and soul into editing that thing.
It's one of those seasons where I didn't know who these people were. Like, I stumbled upon it on YouTube one day, and I just binged it, and then I went back and watched 2 through 4, and then I rewatched All-Stars and appreciated it 1,000 times more, and then I think last year I made my sister sit down and watch it with me.
Wow, that's impressive. I mean, my most amazing thing I feel like I've accomplished is, have you heard of the TV show Devil's Plan on Netflix?
Vaguely.
It's a Korean variety show where they compete in social strategic games.
Okay.
You might enjoy it. I'd say give it a shot. I was watching it and like I thought none of my family would watch it, but somehow I sucked my entire family into watching the last episode and a half with me, which
cool.
I was amazed by. I thought there's no way my family's going to sit here for this, and they did. I was like, whoa.
That's cool. Yeah, but I made her watch it with me. She wasn't as like invested in as I was. She's more of a Survivor casual, whereas me, who I'm doing this.
Are there any other things you want to bring up or talk about from episode 1 before we launch into the meat of episode 2?
I have a couple things. Oh, the theme. I think Order versus Chaos. I texted this to Casey as soon as the trailer released, when y'all did y'all's behind the curtain oral history of Bloomington interview, whatever it was called. I think Order versus Chaos is his answer to heroes versus villains.
Really? Tell me more.
That was my initial thought, was, okay, this is Casey doing heroes versus villains. Because I think, one, it's the tribe colors. When like Order is blue, I think Order, you're going to have a routine, you're going to have structure, you're going to play you're going to be straightforward. And I think in some ways they're all heroic traits. Like, as I can use those terms like very loosely, hero in like a survival war world, whereas like Chaos, they're red. The villains were red. You think Chaos. There's confusion. There's deception. There's some trickery involved, and that's kind of what like Survivor villains are. But I think just like with heroes versus villains, every person on the Order tribe has a little bit of chaos in them, and every person on the Chaos tribe has a little bit of order in them. But that was my first thought, was this is his answer to heroes versus villains. I really like the bounty choice, and we can get more into that since that focused a lot on episode 2. And the way, as I talked about that scene after Order lost the first tribal, I also really like the way episode 1 was filmed. And like the way it was done, and the way it was edited, and the way it's produced. Like, Casey knows how to tell a story, and the way it was done, it had like this documentary feel to it. There's just like something very like special and unique about the way episode 1 was filmed and edited, and I just found it like really fascinating.
What do you think of the choice of him using, because in episode 1 we see it's not episode 1, it's prologue, then chapter 1, then this is technically not episode 2, it's chapter 2. What do you think of using this kind of novel format versus like the standard episode 1, 2, 3, 4?
I like it. It just shows how this is like the story of the winner. This is the story of the season. And here's chapter 1. Here's the story of what happened those first few hours, and the story of why Nina lost. To paraphrase something from RHAP. Chapter 2, why Riley lost. And what I also really like about episode 1 was the prologue. I forget who was highlighted, but like everyone that got a little package, I think those are going to be our big characters. Whether they go early, whether they go far, however they go, I think those are the people we're going to have to pay attention to.
Well, as one of the people, I think there was like 10 players who are in that opening prologue. We got to see like 10 players that were opening packages, and I think I was one of the 10. So
I think you were.
Yeah, so which makes me very curious to see what will happen. That's all I could say.
Yes. I don't want to know any spoilers. Okay, I mentioned how Mackenzie gives me Jordan vibes. I did like the way that you stalked the cast, something I would do.
I mean, okay, I thought I did work. Boy, Melanie did so much more work than me. I was impressed. I was like, she's like, I listened to all your podcasts. I'm like, I am So flattered. And now I'm going to use you to consult for all my future podcasts because you know me best.
Right. And just a thing about last week's boot with Nina, I think she did get a complete story. Her very first confessional was something I very much related to. Was I have the quote right here. When she was doing her opening package, she said, "The day before this, I spent all day overthinking everything." And I thought to myself, if that's not me, then I don't know what is. And I think in a way she overthought herself out of this game of thinking this person went for a walk real quick. Clearly they have something. Clearly we need to target them, and it got back to her. But I think Nina got a nice little story. Like you understood why Nina was voted out.
And one thing to remember too, this is a redemption season, right? One player who's voted out pre-merge will come back. So someone's story may look complete, but may not be.
Right. And that's something like I kind of forget about that. Like Redemption Island is a thing, just since we don't, see it. I was like, oh yeah, redemption's a thing. I kind of forget about that.
I was curious to see how KC would edit it in, and it sounds like from group discussions there will be more of an episode focused on that when we get back to the buyback challenge. So I'll be curious about that. I think also like from talking just like what's the best practice for getting footage for Redemption Island? I've actually in Survivor Angelica, their most recent season, Hexes and Healing. I can't remember the exact title of it, but the most recent one, their 2023 season, they have Redemption Island, and they just hand a GoPro or a camera to the players and just have them like, hey, film yourself doing stuff here.
That's cool.
It seems like it worked well.
Yeah. But yeah, those are my my big thoughts. Just wanted to mention the intro, the way it was filmed. I do like the wrinkle to the shot in the dark of being able to collect them to get 4 and whatever it is. We can get, we can talk about that later. But if you get 4 of them together, is it an extra vote or an idle?
Four extra. So if you play 6 at once, you have 100% chance of safety. It's an idle essentially. It's a worse idle, but it's an idle. If you have 4. Right, you can either get a 2/3 shot of being safe, or you just play it as an extra vote. So you have some modality or flexibility to it.
Right. So I like the choice. Like I'm not the biggest fan of shot in the dark on the show, but when I've seen it on LRGs, pretty good. Just saying.
I can talk so long about this. I think what I love about this twist, and I can wax poetically about it, is it's a build your own advantage, right? It's a build your own advantage. Like, what do you want? Do you want safety or do you want strategic control? Are you looking for votes or looking for safety at key opportunities? But safety comes at a cost, etc. And so I love the modalities of that. I love the fact that it acts. It's a better fire token. It acts as a currency in a way as well, in terms of like you can do more that you can barter, you can give away, and then there's the kind of collection aspect and the tension of like, if in the game, like if I voted at John the first 2 rounds, I would claim his shot in the dark, right? And so like, how fast do I want to go headhunting for this bounty?
Right, and that's what I like about it as well. Is like, are you choosing like an extra few hours, or are you choosing power in the game? And the way both tribes are dealing with it and handling this twist is so fascinating to me. But we can get on that later. But yeah, I've shared all my big thoughts for episode 1.
Well, let's go into it now, because let's open up the book to chapter 2 and say. So I think 2 things we talk about is like, how are people handling the shot in the dark, the keys, and how are people handling the bounty twist? What are your thoughts on that so far?
So with the bounty twist, I find it so fascinating, but also kind of predictable and expected that the Order tribe, they're just like, okay, this is a thing. We're not going to deal with it. We're going to play kind of an old school game. We're not going to deal with it. We're going to, in a way, use it to build trust. Whereas the Chaos tribe, they're like, give me all, like, you're my person. I want you out. I want to work with you, but I want you out of here immediately. And it's very much the Order tribe is choosing ally, and the Chaos tribe is choosing to go for the advantage of this. And I'm interested to see like which theory will prevail. it's those that are making like the bounty a big deal and want to deal with the bounty, or the people are just like, whatever, we're going to ignore it in a way, play more of like an old school game. It's fascinating.
And maybe Drew can speak to this, but like we get this whole montage of players in the Order tribe sharing this information, using it strategically, and really like almost everyone can figure out who else. Everyone kind of knows who everyone's bounty is. Right? There's a little bit of mystery. I don't think Riley discloses who their bounty is, but on the Chaos tribe, we don't see much discussion or sharing of that knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I have my notes about this. Where did I put my notes about this? I just like it was just like a stream of conscious. Okay, so with the Order tribe, I wrote telling people your bounty seems like it neuters the twist, but is it a way to gain people's trust? Of of you telling John, like, yeah, you're my bounty, but I don't care. I want to work with you. Like you're choosing to have an ally or try to build some sort of relationship of an alliance over having an extra shot in the dark to get what a 1/3 chance of safety as opposed to a 1 in 6 chance, which I like that. Okay, Order tribe. Let's tell each other about our bounties and build trust. Chaos tribe. Let's actually play this twist.
Yeah, and so we have a comment from Drew saying he's like, I don't think I had any early conversations as to who had it, what was bounties. Everyone kept it pretty quiet on the front. And maybe the difference is like now that Order tribe had gone to tribal council, you kind of like opened up, the game has opened up, people more willing to barter or convey the information. While in the Chaos tribe, maybe there's not as high as need to do that yet. I don't know.
Right. I mean, maybe because they're playing the game, but they haven't like really played the game and how to go to tribal and strategize. And like you said, maybe once they do go to tribal, then they're going to use their keys as a way to open doors, pun intended, to new relationships, to new alliances. But we'll see.
An essential figure we see in the Order tribe in this in these opening scenes is Mackenzie, right? You already mentioned Mackenzie as the player of the watch, for the player you think is people are gonna all take her to the final 5 with her and she's gonna dominate. I love this line for her saying is players are like feeding her morsels of information.
Yeah, she's like set up so great, and I don't think people realize how great of a spot she's in because everyone wants to work with her. Everyone has Mackenzie in their plans, and that is the ideal spot. It's like if everyone thinks you're in alliance with them, they think they're the true alliance, and your other alliances are fake. It's something we see on Survivor, on the challenge of like this one central figure that everyone revolves around, and they think they're their true alliance, they're their true number one. When in actuality, it may not be them. I think if they're not careful, Mackenzie's going to make it far. I think if people start picking up on Mackenzie's going to be gone sooner than later. But I think she's in such a good spot and so well insulated that that's not going to happen.
And because I know there's scenes with me talking about this game, and I feel Mackenzie's insulation is partly due to she has this advantage we all want her to use.
Right, that does help. But if she didn't have that advantage, I think she's still in that position of being everyone's number one, or people wanting her to be their number one.
Yeah,
I think she'd be in a good spot regardless.
We see it towards the end of the episode where other little Matt, Mackenzie, and I are together, and we had been on the little we had done the first immunity challenge with each other with the stepping stones, with those pieces of wood to collect the puzzle pieces.
Yeah, okay.
The three of us had been in a group together, and we were trying to say, hey, the three of us should work together and go far. We did great as this trio right here. So that was the angle I was trying to work Mackenzie.
Right.
It's like, hey, the three of us.
Yeah, and you try to find a thread with anyone and everyone, and whatever that thread is, you make a sweater out of that thread. I think that's a Fair Play quote he said on a podcast a while ago. I really liked it. Yeah. But just like find some sort of something to build a relationship alliance off of, because that's what you need, especially in a game that's like this quick. It's what, 4 days, 5 days?
4
days? Yeah, it's like such a quick game that you need. Any reason to build alliance with someone is a great reason, just like any reason to get rid of someone that's not you is a great reason. especially early on.
Some other minor things is Alex finds an extra key when investigating the rice, and which it's like one of those things when I was in game kind of crossed my mind. I was like, I should investigate the rice, and I just never did. And Alex actually did and got an extra key for her efforts, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's something that I wish I did, was like be more aware of advantages and idols and look for them. Like, yes, like I looked for them when I was getting firewood and whatnot. But yeah, I should have done that more often, but I didn't.
Another thing that gets revealed is in the first episode, John's like, I have an ace up my sleeve. And on the other tribe, we don't know what it is. In this tribe, he discloses to Mackenzie, Tyler's my brother, and Tyler's on that other tribe. And so, comma swap or merge, that's something we can use together.
And it was so wild because, so I watched this episode twice. I watched it Friday, today's Monday. I watched it Saturday night just for fun, just to enjoy it, because I knew I'd have to do notes. And then I watched it early this morning to take notes. And John had such like an interesting ride in this episode. Because when we start out, he's saying like, I control the vote, yada, yada. And I'm thinking to myself, should John be on the Chaos Tribe? He seemed like more chaotic than orderly. It's like, what? It's kind of like, why was Candace on the Heroes Tribe, right? Like, why is John on the Order Tribe? And no sooner do I think that we get the story from him where he's sharing with the tribe all of his background and what he's been through over the past 10-15 years, however old John is. And I'm thinking to myself, is this like Casey's way of saying that no, he deserves to be on the Order Tribe? Like, this is why audience, he's on the Order Tribe? Or is he like maybe too chaotic? Or is he? What did I say? So, is it to throw us off that hey, he's actually a chaotic player, and he's just trying to just show like, hey people, I know y'all are thinking I'm more chaotic than orderly, so I want to let you know that I'm orderly. This is why I'm on the Order Tribe. Or to make sure that y'all are calm and not suspect anything, or is it for the audience so we can know that this is why he's on the Orderly Tribe? I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think every conversation you have with someone is personal, but there's also a little bit of game in every single conversation that you have.
I mean, because my reaction to something similar where I kind of walked out the first round saying, okay, John's a little bit more chaotic than I thought he was. He might be the most chaotic person on this tribe. I don't know. And I also, whenever I see a versus season, like A versus B, it's like, it's not the extreme. I always feel it's not the extremes who win, but it's the person who plays closest to the middle of those two, whatever dichotomies are. And so I was like, man, I think the most chaotic order person, or the most orderly chaos person is going to do well in this competition.
Yeah. But with John, though, I think there's part of me thinks he could be a victim of a massive blindside, either like post swap or like early merge. If he gets like blindside between final 13 and final 9, I would not be surprised.
Well, we do hear Alex throw his name out a little bit, and so she's in a scene with Big Matt where she kind of mentions like, "Hey, I'm worried about John." Like, so we kind of start hearing inklings to that.
Yeah, and I think this episode as a whole was a foundation-setting episode. We can get to it, but it looked like just like Tribal was a foregone conclusion, and we all knew what was going to happen. And so, like, why Riley went home, I think it was clear of she just wasn't really connecting well with the tribe, and we saw that being established in episode 1, carries on to episode 2. So as an audience, we understood why Riley lost and went home. I think this is setting up the foundation for what's to come, and maybe Alex is the mastermind behind John's demise. Because I meant to rewatch All Stars again before watching this. I didn't, but just talking to KC about it, he said there were clues in episode 1 and episode 2 which tied back into something that happened in episode 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, is this a clue of Casey is dropping this little this nugget, this little 15 20-second scene, and the episode doesn't really do anything, but is it setting the foundation for Alex to take down Matt?
Is there anything else about this pre-challenge order tribe that you want to talk about?
I think some of them, let me check my notes,
because we could talk about, like, we see some like potential alliances or dynamics begin to emerge, but it seems like things are still murky within the tribe.
Yeah. Oh, there was this scene between Big Matt, Jamie, and John, where Jamie says they don't want to dictate things, but want to protect people. And I think that's an interesting way of putting putting survivor strategy into words. I think if you're too much on one side or the other, you're going to be seen as too much of a threat. It's finding that happy medium of knowing when to give, of being like, okay, Steve, if you want to get out, Casey, this round, that's fine. It's not ideal for me, but I'll do it, of knowing when to be okay with something, and when you need to say, no, we're doing this person, as opposed to saying, I'm okay with it not being this person. I thought that was an interesting way to word survivor strategy.
Yeah, this season has made me think, I've never thought of Survivor as playing offense versus defense. Like, are you going after people or are you protecting people? And I think this season has kind of shown me that is a strategy some people look or use, or a different frame of reference around how to play Survivor, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, it was an interesting quote, and it stood out to me, because I really never thought about it in those particular terms, but it's very true. And I think the best can do both of those, can like have the ability to dictate one round, but to protect others the second round, to know when to give and to take.
So this takes us then to the Chaos Tribe, who I'm amazed actually like broke out the rice and actually had food that day, because I don't think so they broke out the rice. I mean, what's fun about like these games is when, like, I don't know if Reelfoot would give us these small little plastic containers and spoons to use to serve our rice in, but we didn't get anything like that in Bloomington. So you saw people eating, I've seen people eating like little cardboard pieces off of machete, off of, like, in this case, it looked like trash bags people were serving rice on.
Yeah, I saw that rice. I'm like, I think that's more rice in that one bowl than we got in all of Reelfoot. Like, our container for Reelfoot was like this big, filled like 3/4 of the way up, and
you're eating good when, like, you have like chips you can use to season the rice.
So lucky, but and we didn't even get spoons. I ate rice with my fingers and like off a stick. I found it, so I was like, okay, this looks like somewhat clean. We're gonna roll with it.
I mean, at this point, I'm so hungry, I don't care.
What? Yeah, just whatever. But yeah, I found it weird. It's like, that's a lot of rice, and you've only like 8 hours in, and you're using like all your rice.
So James, hypothetically, you're on the Chaos Tribe, and hypothetically, you want to engage in some chaos, but you don't want it to be traced back to you. What are some chaotic things you can think of doing in a Survivor game?
So the food thing, like I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't do that. One, because you just don't mess with people's food out there. And also, if I was a victim of that, I would be really mad. Bananas are my favorite fruit, so I would be looking forward to having that banana. Not so much for like the challenge aspect of it, but I like bananas, and if someone took my bananas, I'd be really mad and upset with them. But as far as what I would do game-wise, maybe tell a little half-truth. Maybe like put like a piece of paper in someone's bag saying this is an idol clue. Maybe they have an idol. Just, just plant little seeds.
Have you seen
step back.
Have you seen Survivor South Africa Immunity Island by any chance?
Survivor South Africa is the superior franchise. Made by
Okay.
superfans for superfans. Yeah.
I'm thinking a lot of Chappies right now in his,
Yes,
first season.
yes. And I was so
Chap-
bummed he got voted out first on season 9.
where Chappies has his own little kitchen where he does siphon rice from the tribe, but he also catches and does a bunch of stuff. But he basically has this whole midnight feast for himself every night, and the other players are incensed as a result. So
I think Chappie's Cafe. I don't know if I could do that.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. You were just talking about Chappies.
Oh yeah, I just really like Chappies.
So I take it you're not the player who's gonna steal the food, hide the machete, throw out people's shoes. That's not the chaos you're gonna engage in.
No, because I would feel bad. So I don't want to keep bringing it back to Reelfoot, but so for those who aren't familiar with my season, I was told that I was going home on night 4 because we thought tribal council would be like an hour later. Turns out it was 15 hours later, so I had to spend another night out there. And while I'm trying to like figure out if there's any way I can save myself, I see the tribe's container of rice is like right at my feet. And I don't know if I've ever said this publicly, but there was like half of a split second where I did think about dumping out the tribe's rice. I thought about it.
Could have been memorialized for as that person. You and Jatia right there.
I could have channeled my inner Jatia, but like even as that thought was crossing my mind, it's like I couldn't do that. I would feel like a terrible person if I did that. I can't do it to them. It's a week-long game for like $500. I can't do that. I could not live with myself. I would feel terrible. But the thought did cross my mind to dump the rice.
So where do you see Drew's banana thievery going?
I think if he's not careful, he's going to bite him in the butt because those bananas just didn't grow legs and walk off. But if he wants to be chaotic and like sow those seeds of distrust, he's doing it. It's just I hope he doesn't get caught. Because if he gets caught, I think that does it for him.
So we have a couple other fun small things. Tyler learns that Seth was not in Surviving Maine. He kind of has a whoops my bad moment with the camera.
Yeah, was it Tyler? Oh, another thing with Tyler that I found interesting, kind of funny, is he's saying he's in alliance with, I forget the people, but he didn't remember their names. I'm thinking, dude, like how can you be in alliance with people?
I think that was
if you
Marshawn,
don't know who they are.
That
was it Marshawn?
I think it was Marshawn's like I'm in alliance with the guy in the fanny pack, and then he says someone else's name, but it's just not their name. He says like Colin or something like that. I need to find my notes.
It was Caleb. I thought it was Tyler that said that.
I'm pretty sure it was Marshawn. Yeah, I have it as Marshawn.
Oh yeah.
It's like I work with the person in the fanny pack and also Caleb. And you're just like, he says like I'm not really good with names. You're like who's Caleb?
Yes, it was Marshawn. It was Marshawn. But with Tyler, he not knowing it. Oh, it was okay.
Yeah. So Drew, next time you're on a podcast, please change your name to Caleb. That'd make everyone.
Yes, please do.
Thank you.
Yeah, but something I think we touched on earlier, but I'm interested to see like the John and Tyler dynamic playing out. Like it's like a blood versus water within a heroes versus villains. It's kind of like Rob and Amber on Winners at War. It didn't develop into anything, but I think it could be interesting because no one knows that they're brothers. Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see like how that all plays out.
Do you have any ideas? Any hints or things or ways you think it could play out?
I don't have anything. Mm-hmm. I don't really know because I asked when I found this out. I texted Casey. I was like, are they like really brothers or are they like friends who call each other brother? And he's like, no, they're adopted brothers or whatever. So I found that it's an interesting wrinkle, and I wonder who's going to win out. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like Mark and Sam on Australian Survivor Blood versus Water. Like which alliance is going to win out between like what side are they going to take of all their alliances?
Do you have any siblings?
I have one sister who is a younger than me.
If you played Survivor with your sister, would you be okay taking her to the end and losing to her?
Probably not. But I would not be able to vote her out, but she would vote me out in a heartbeat. We've had this discussion.
That's what happened with my siblings as well. I would roll with them, and they would blindside me at the first opportunity because they can.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I would like go into older brother mode and protect her, make sure she's good, and like make sure she's taken care of. Probably while jeopardizing my own game. Whereas my sister would cut me first opportunity and give zero thought about it.
I played a board game with my siblings over winter break called Beast, and it was a 1v3 style game. And my middle brother was that one arch enemy. He beat us twice and lorded over us for many days afterwards. It's like, I love this game. You all suck at it. Like, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no, I think I would not want to lose to. I know I wouldn't. I don't think I could do it. I tried to get her to apply for a Blood versus Water game with me over the summer, but she was a strong no.
Same with my brothers. They're just like, we ain't doing that. Just like, oh, the
She's
dream
like,
someday.
No, I'm not doing that.
Seth discloses that he's dating Megan. Megan was the runner-up from the last season. She also was. Yes. She's done historically very well in Bloomington. She's on production this season. Do you feel that makes you want to? Does that make you wary or want to target someone if they are related to someone on production?
I would be iffy about them because what do they know that I don't know? Like when they were planning the season, did they oversee something that I didn't see? Did they overhear a conversation that they shouldn't have heard? And even if they did, they still have that target on the back. Like in this game, perception is reality. And if you think someone has an unfair advantage for whatever reason, you're going to want to take them out. It reminds me of Survivor Michigan All Stars. One player. But when the players was dating one of the producers, and some unintended stuff happened, and it had like a big impact on the game. If you haven't seen Michigan All Stars, I'm not going to spoil it, but if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, and it impacted the games. I think there's a chance that maybe in like a post-swap situation, or if Chaos has to go to tribal first, like to tribal before a swap. It's a crappy reason, but that's a good reason to get rid of Seth. It's like, what does he know? What could he possibly know about like future twists and future rounds that I don't know? I want him out. I would use that as a reason. If I'm on the bottom, if I'm on the outs of the tribe, and I know that piece of information, I would use that to get him out because anyone but me.
We start seeing the Chaos Tribe, they're not sitting idly. We start seeing some alliances and strategies and names getting thrown out. I think the thing that stood out to me is you have this funny situation where Danny is like, I feel good about two duos. I see there's a Brady and Drew duo. I see there's like Rachel and Kim duo. And I want to be in good with both of those, right?
Right.
But then Kim's like, I don't feel good about Danny.
Right. Because I think it kind of seems like Danny is in the same position as Mackenzie, but is not playing it all that great. Or Danny thinks they're in that position of everyone wanting to work with them of being in a good spot. I think Danny is gonna be probably like first juror. I don't think Danny is long for this game. And something else with Danny, I've seen them play a lot of these games. They did like 3 or 4 of these games in like a 4 or 5 month stretch last year.
I know Danny played Bloomington. Is it
Survive?
Survive, yeah. There we go. I was like, it's just Survive. And then Survivor BC All Stars as well.
Yeah. So what? 4 games over what? 6 months?
There's a high density games. Yes.
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't know how the heck they did that. But yeah, I'm worried for Danny.
Than you or me.
Yeah, they are. You want to do that? Go for it. I did my 1 game and I'm good. But yeah, I think I'm worried about Danny. Okay, I think they might be okay short term, but could see them going early. Jury, I think they have more. I think they have more connections than alliances, and their known history of playing numerous LRGs could get them.
Mm-hmm.
And then no sooner do I type that, I put Kim and Rachel are catching on, might be going sooner than later.
Yeah, I think the one real connection in the game that was kind of people knew was Tyler and Danny had played their Survivor BC season together the prior year. And so like there's kind of people were kind of like eyeing that was somewhat knowledge that was floating around.
Okay. But yeah, I'm worried about Danny.
Yeah. But then you have like Rachel is hearing like she's like, Danny's putting my name out and Kim's name, but Kim can't go home. So it's like so I'm worried. Then Brady says like, I'm hearing Rachel and Marshawn's name. So we're seeing a fair amount of names being floated around here on the Chaos Tribe.
They're living up to their name because on the Order Tribe, it's always been either person A or person B. Chaos is like A, B, C, D, or E. We don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there.
Well, Order Tribe didn't have the luxury of like stewing and letting people like rub each other the wrong way and building up more and more names. We didn't quite have that luxury.
True.
I mean, because that's one thing I think is always about Reelfoot is you have like a good 24 to 48 hours for that first tribal council, and boy, do the plans get out of hand during that period.
Man, I think at least 3 different names got thrown around during that time.
We get to the immunity challenge. The immunity challenge, players had to race out over balance beams, and they had to run to this little forward section. They had to look at this 3x9 grid of symbols. And they come back and put the symbols in the correct order and orientation. So not only would it be the correct symbol, it'd be facing north, south, east, west. Notably, colors didn't matter. So you'll notice that so the colors were not a thing. I'm pretty sure.
I did not catch that. I thought it had to be if the grid was a like red square on a black background. You had to have a red square on a black background.
Yeah. And Drew, if you could confirm, but I'm pretty sure colors were not a thing. It was simply the correct symbol and the correct orientation.
Missed that.
Yeah. Still made it hard enough.
Oh yeah, I mean it's still a difficult challenge. It reminded me of a challenge that we did in Reelfoot. Very similar concept.
Yeah, it's one of your reward challenges.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like one of the 4 or 5 that I actually played in that season.
Yeah, Drew's confirming is simply the symbol and the orientation. Okay. Apparently, Marshawn was trying to tell people to memorize the tiles in alphabetical order. Drew, if you could elaborate what that means, I would love to hear that.
That doesn't what? That's a strategy. That is quite a strategy.
So, like, one of the things I regret that in this challenge was that, the tiles were all face flat beneath the table. You couldn't turn them up until the first person ran back. So that's why you see John go, run over, look briefly, run back and flip tiles so you can start seeing all the tiles and kind of like put something in order. And but you can still kind of look at it. And I kind of saw, I was like, this looks like we'll have like 3 per row. And I wish and we kind of, as an Order Tribe, our strategy was like, all right, just kind of memorize like top row left to right. And the next person will then like pick up from there and we'll go row by row. Right. And I think the hot ticket was just pick a column, just first person, column 1, 3 symbols down the row, next person, column 2. And like, I really should have pushed like, hey, I think this is what the orientation is going to look like. This is what we should do. But I didn't push and I regret that.
Yeah, I think because when we did a similar challenge, we lost it. I was the one doing like the puzzle because people they would go out, look at the grid, and then they would tell me like what colors I put in order. But I think it was just like mass confusion. No one said, okay, you're taking column 1, you're taking column 2, you're taking column 3. Everyone was like trying to memorize. Okay, there's like a red square, blue square, green square, and it was just what I saw and what you saw were different things, and it was a mess. But I think a challenge like this, just assign everyone, okay, your column 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, memorize your column, and do it.
Anything else about this challenge stand out to you besides Order loses again and Chaos takes the victory?
Not really. I'm not a big challenge person.
So we get back to the Order Tribe, and this is in the Order Tribe we see kind of the scramble, and it's certainly less chaotic as what we saw in the prior episode.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There was a quote that I believe it was Alex who said that. I've been saying this since I got here. I'm like Sandra Dish Schwein, as long as it ain't me. In those early rounds,
Yep.
great strategy to have.
Yep.
Great strategy. Great strategy.
Yeah, so kind of something with Alex is we see Alex, she's with Mackenzie, me, and Little Matt, and she floats John's name out as a vote. And that's kind of like, we see kind of three names kind of emerge this round. As a result, we see Riley's name kind of as a pickup from last round. John's name is, Alex is kind of campaigning for that, saying, hey, John is a problem. Look what he did last round. We should nip this in the bud. And then as a counter, John learns about it and kind of floats Alex's name as well.
Yeah, I think just from what I got, I think those really weren't serious things. I think it's just like, oh, let me think about it. It won't happen. Let's just go with Riley and just do one more easy vote, easy in quotations. But I think, like I said earlier, I think the fact that we're seeing John's name come up numerous times in episode 2, there's a reason for it. I think we're setting the foundation for a John blindside between final 13 and final night, and like the final 9.
And we get a lot more time. We get a lot more Mackenzie time, where Mackenzie's really kind of sharing more of her thoughts. I think some highlights was she's like, Nina would have been great at that challenge, and Nina has confirmed Nina would have been great at that challenge. So we voted out a person who may have made us win the challenge. We'll never know.
Right, never know.
Yeah, she admits like that she voted Nina because John wanted her to, right? And that kind of is similar to the voting confessionals Little Matt and I had last episode, where we said we're voting Nina because John wants this. And finally, there's this tension between, she's like, she wants to work with Alex, she wants to work with John. Alex has already got John's name, and then there's even more concern, like, do I have Alex? Like, is Alex a person I can trust? I don't know.
Right, but what I found interesting, I think it's more, the way I saw it, I think it's more like a trio of like Mackenzie versus John versus Big Matt, of like who's going to take power in this tribe. Because you have John who is like in control of the first vote and wants to do his thing, but is trying to pull back a little. Mackenzie, who everyone wants to work with, and then Big Matt. I think he's like also trying to do it, trying to be everyone's friend, connect those have those personal moments, those personal relationships, in order to make them into game relationships and game alliances and game strategy. So I think those are like the three big people on the Order tribe that are all vying for control in one particular way. I didn't see Alex as like one of the, I don't want to say a power play, but like one of the big three in this episode. I thought it's Mackenzie versus John versus Daddy Matt for control over the Order tribe. To have order on the Order tribe, I should say.
I think the only other thing that really stood out to me in the scramble is, Riley gives us a confessional saying that, Riley really wants to work with John after last round because John did a lot to help Riley then. And you see scenes where Riley and John are talking. I believe this is when John kind of says like, hey, you should think about voting Alex.
Yeah. And there's also a scene with Mackenzie and Riley where Mackenzie says in the confessional how she really has like a lot of shared interests and commonalities with Riley. Just Riley isn't opening up, and I get that if you're on like a more reserved and quiet side, being thrown into a situation like this is a lot for you. But it's just find it in you and make those connections, because you have time, but you don't have time in these games to like find your people, especially when your first tribal count's only 4 or 5 hours in. You gotta do what you gotta do. Try to make those bonds, forge those connections, and get outside your comfort zone a little bit.
So, question to you is: we see in for episode 1, John's like, "Hey, if I protect Riley, like I will kind of gain Riley as a number." Right? And we see that bear fruit where Riley says, I'm going to John because John did a lot for me last time, right? And so that's paid off. John has this tension, right? Because on one hand, John wants to play a softer game in round 2 because he like really drove the boat round 1. But at the same time, he has a new ally who's now under fire as a result. Should John have done more to protect and try to get Riley to this next round?
I think in a case like this, it was kind of a done deal. I think Riley was just the person. And I think John used a lot of social capital and maybe showed most of his cards in round one by driving the Nina vote. And I think if he tried to drive the vote, let's say to Alex this round, I think he would be using up just about all of his social capital and then some. And he would be seen as like the bigger threat, that he's dominating too much. He's too much in charge. He's too much of a threat. He would go. I think that like this early in the game, it's okay to cut an ally to survive. Now, if it's final 6, final 7, final 8, I think you fight for that ally because the votes are more scarce. But in a situation like this, where it seems like it's a done deal, just put that name on the piece of paper and let's just see another round.
Is there anything you think Riley maybe could have done differently?
I think trying more to just like integrate herself and just be more open and have those connections. But like I said, if you're like a quiet, reserved, introverted person like me, I'm naturally a quiet, reserved, introverted person. It is hard to have those conversations. It's hard to like go up to someone and have those conversations, to talk, to open up and be a little bit vulnerable about who you are as a person, in the hopes that you could find some sort of common interest in order to make an alliance and build their trust. And if it takes you a while to warm up, it's even worse because you have like 5-6 hours before tribal. Whereas with Reelfoot, I had 2 days to build those alliances and build those connections and foster all of that. Whereas this, no sooner do you get there, you're at tribal. So it's.
And I think that's something people should take into account when it comes to games, of just knowing like how soon is that first tribal council, because that radically changes things. Like one thing I liked about Reelfoot is you can really get a feel of the people around you, and if you want to work with and kind of determine like, okay, like you maybe are quiet the first 24 hours, but thankfully you have more time to open up and have things change. Right. Of course, sometimes in Reelfoot, the game just moves really fast, and like, within the first couple hours, an alliance is formed, you're not in it. There's always that threat, but you have the gift of more time.
Yes, of realizing, I'm not in a good spot. Let me see what I can do. Because there's a quote that I liked from jumping back a little bit about what was it, Tyler, by saying listening and observing is the most important thing to do early on. There's like watch where people are sleeping. Watch who's going off with who to go get water and collect firewood. Like watch that. That tells you so much, and it tells you where you stand in the game. Watch and observe.
Anything else about the scramble you want to bring up?
No. I just thought it was kind of like, I figured going in, okay, this is probably Riley. It seemed to be a done deal. And just from the music that Casey played, it kind of seemed like I was at a wake. Like this is like a somber event. We know what's going on.
Very somber, yeah. A tribal council, I don't think there's much to talk about there. It is a very clean-cut vote, 7-1 for Riley. A very interesting ending with just kind of letting the players slowly move out. So you get to see my torso for a large chunk of it, and the credit rolling scene versus last episode where we have the actual like voting confessionals happen.
Right. But there is one thing about tribal I found very interesting that I want to address.
Yes.
And it's not a quote, but it's at the booth itself when everyone is looking for extra keys.
Yeah, we have to talk about the keys.
Yeah, we got to talk about the keys and like how they were hidden at tribal, which I really like. I think it's a great a metaphor for the game.
So when the camera goes at like a skew angle beneath the table, I'm just like, what's going on here? It takes me like, Arjun was like, is that a key sticking out of the side of the podium, but kind of like hidden beneath the lip of the table? I was just like, oh, because you see everyone's looking at the top, everyone's looking underneath, but I don't think anyone's looking to the sides of it. To be honest, this is the first I ever knew that there was a key there. So I'm like, oh wow, there was something there. We just sucked.
And I think it's like a great metaphor, for the game of Survivor, where y'all are so focused on like looking at the big things, looking in the urn, looking in the skull, looking under the gavel, like all like the big stuff that's on the booth. To see if like there were keys, because that's where they were in Bloomington All Stars, was they were in the big things. But this time they're on the side, very subtle, where you have to actually make an effort to look and to notice and to try to find it. I think it's very similar for the game. Everyone is so focused on like the big moves, the big thing, the big flashy thing, where sometimes it's the little things and the subtle moves that are going to make you advance and go further in the game. And I probably overthought that way too much, but that's me.
Here's my take on it. Those keys are small and they're hard to find. They're very easily hidden in wooden objects.
I believe that. But I thought it was like an interesting place, to hide it.
Yeah.
And then I overthought this a bit of this metaphor comparing the game of Survivor to where you.
I think Casey's going to appreciate this metaphor a lot, though.
Oh yes, he will.
I guess two final things is one, I still don't have duct tape.
Oh, you still don't have duct tape 7 months later? 8 months later?
I do have duct tape 7 months later. Too much of it. But at this point in the game, at end of round 2, my shoes were still broken. I did not have duct tape.
What exactly happened with your shoes?
So I wore a pair of tennis shoes that were more beat up than I thought, and the sole popped off after the first challenge of the left shoe.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need duct tape, the tape it together, and then keep it, and then make this more usable than it currently is.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha.
I guess the final question is, Riley has 2 shots in the dark, 2 keys, because Riley successfully voted out her bounty. She had voted out Nina, and so Riley could have played her keys. And do you think it was just a level of comfort, or like I'm not quite sure the decision process for Riley of not playing the keys, and maybe just like, hey, everyone's maybe we did a good enough job blindsiding Riley. Riley's like, no, I don't need to play my keys.
I honestly I didn't even think about that until just now, Stephen. I think you got votes last time. Only 3 or 4 hours have passed since the Nina vote, if that. I think you got votes last time. I'd say play at least one, and just to see. It's not.
I just play both at that point. I'm not playing just one. I'm playing both.
I mean, if I think I'm on the block, I'm playing both. I'm playing everything, but or maybe she just kind of knew and was okay with it.
Yeah,
which is valid.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she's like, this isn't for me, and I'm okay with this being the end of my adventure. But yeah, I would have like if I knew like if there's a shot in the dark on season 10 of Reelfoot, I am playing that my round and just hoping for the best.
So, I guess predictions from there. Where do you see the next episode going?
So I think this was a good table setter. I think for chaos, I think we're due for a Kim versus a Danny battle of like who's going to be in charge of the tribe. Is Danny going to win out, and are they going to have their alliance of Kim, Rachel, Brady, Drew, and themselves, or is Kim going to win out and Danny's going to go? I think we are heading towards a Danny versus Kim a showdown. That's if chaos loses. If order loses, I think Mackenzie, John, and Daddy Matt are the 3 people who are trying to like gain order over the tribe, and we're going to have like an interesting battle between those 3. I think Mackenzie wins out, and like if we see someone like an Alex go, I wouldn't be surprised. But if we see someone like John go, I wouldn't be surprised either. I think we're going to be making moves on this upcoming episode.
So you think I'm good for one more episode?
Yes. 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 I think you're in a good spot, Stephen. Unless like some random thing happens and like idols and advantages and instead of Sari going home, you go home. But I think you're in like a good spot.
So I have a question from KC. Who do you relate to from most on both tribes?
To most, So I think I kind of answered this in a joking way the first time. But for order, definitely Nina. Of like the overthinker. I got to overthink everything. But if I'm giving like a more serious answer, Jamie. I see a lot of my story, like in Jamie's story of they're wondering what the hell did I get myself into? I don't know if I can do this. Why am I here? This is like so weird. And to see them like know that like just you can watch them see, okay, I did it. I'm doing this thing. I survived the first vote, which I didn't think I was going to survive the first vote. And I think it looks like Jamie had that same feeling. Okay, I survived the first vote. I can do this. I'm in an okay spot. I'm doing the thing. So for order, somewhat Nina, but that's like a joking answer. Seriously, Jamie. Chaos Tribe. Huh. I don't know if I have a full answer because we haven't spent that much time with the Chaos Tribe.
It's the winner's curse.
Right. So I mean, like that's great that we don't see much of the Chaos Tribe, but also for this question, Casey, I don't have like a good answer.
You know what this means, James, right?
What?
It means you have to come back for another podcast so you can answer.
I mean, I'm down. I'm down for another one.
So two important things as we wrap up here. The first is our version of the Chizzy called the Bloomy, where we're going to give 3 points to a player, 2 points to a player, 1 point to a player for who you think played the best this week. Would you like to go first or second?
I will go first.
Okay.
And what's this called?
The Bloomy.
The Bloomy. Okay, not the Mike Bloom, but the Survivor Bloomington.
The Bloomington version, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm giving my first Bloomy to a Daddy Matt. I think he's in an okay spot right now, but I do think he could overplay himself if he's not careful. I think right now he's like doing well, establishing the connections and all the relationships. I think he's in a good spot. I'm going to give 2 Bloomies to Kim. Kim's picking up on Danny, and I think she's probably in the best spot within the Chaos Tribe. And this should be zero surprise to you if you've listened over the past hour and 20 minutes, but I'm giving 3 Chizzy points to Mackenzie for all the reasons that I've stated.
Yeah, so I'll start with my 3. So I'm going to give 3 points to Mackenzie as well.
Yep.
I think Mackenzie's in a very essential point in the game. People are telling her all the things. She has a lot of choices and decisions she can make, which is good and bad. You know, John tells her the secret that, hey, my brother's in their tribe. Alex is coming to her and saying, I want to vote for John. She has a lot of sway.
Yes.
And she's still holding on to that immunity, that tribal advantage, that challenge advantage card that she can use in the future. For 2 points, I'm going to go to John. I thought John played this episode fantastic. I think it was correct to kind of let things simmer a bit, play things a little bit down after gunning for Nina. And yes, he did lose Riley as an ally, but I think he's insulated enough that he can afford to do so. So I liked how he was playing, and he was very clear and dictating, like, hey, I'm going to step back a bit. Yeah. And then finally, I'm going to, a little bit like you, I'm going to do 1 point Kim. It was great seeing him kind of being the center of this information network where people want to work with her, and she can maybe mobilize things to make something happen.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And John was my honorable mention. Yeah. I was torn between him and Daddy Matt for that first point.
Yeah. You mentioned before, but your quote. What is your quote of the week?
So my quote of the week. Let me pull it up. So my honorable mention quote of the week is I've been saying it since as long as I got here. I'm like Sandra Diaz Schwein, as long as it ain't me. That was my motto pre-merge.
Point to Alex.
But quote of the episode, John, if it doesn't work for you that round, then stay true to who you are. Also the episode title.
Yeah. So mine's a little bit more funny. It was some of the last scenes you see before Travel Council with me, Mackenzie, and Little Matt, where Matt says, getting splinters with someone really bonds them together.
Yes.
And that made me laugh. So I was like, I'm choosing that one.
Yeah, that's also a good one. That's also good. But like I saw that and I'm like, oh, that says so much about this game and like the way that I view it. So had to go with that. And then I had to go with the Sandridge quote. She's one of my all-time favorite players. Anybody but me was my motto for the pre-merge. And I love sitting on the Sandridge bench for like any challenge.
Well, James, I think we thoroughly dissected this episode. Anything else you want to add to it?
I think we're good. This was a lot of fun. Really enjoying the season. Like, I love what Casey is doing with this. He's a great storyteller. I'm excited to see where this story goes. And there's one other thing I wanted to mention. So I know how much Boogie meant to Bloomington and to like the Bloomington community in KC. And I've never met him. I just know him from like the 9 or 10 episodes that I saw last year. But I really like and appreciate that he's still being honored and still being remembered in the title card intro sequence. I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, James, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate having you on here to talk all things Surviving Bloomington. James, if people want to find out more about you and your book, etc., where can they find that information?
So you can find me on Twitter at JamesHayden48, where I tweet about Survivor, like all Survivor, whatever I write, and just random musings of being a New Orleans Saints fan. But if you want all of my articles and whatnot, you could go on Linktree. My Linktree is jhayden93, and there you will find the link to my book, to all my podcast appearances, to all of my articles I've written over the past, closing on 8 years. But yeah.
And I've dropped James's link tree into the comments section.
Yes.
I'll make sure it's on the podcast as well.
Awesome.
So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you again, James. Episode 3 will hopefully be coming out next Saturday night. We'll see what happens. Will Order finally win a challenge? Will Chaos continue ruling and dominating? We'll have to see. There's a lot of other great games out there. If you are interested in playing Surviving Bloomington, applications are out. There's other games you can watch: Survivor Angelica, Outlast, Survivor Pennsylvania. I don't know, I'm probably missing a bunch. There's a bunch of other shows airing. This is a great off season for our fan Survivor content. And the first thing I'm doing after this is watching that Survivor Maryland trailer. So I'm super excited.
I'll probably go back and watch it as well. And then I'll probably watch like the Maryland All-Stars trailer, because it's such a fantastic
that trailer. There's the peak excitement. So
yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you, James, and have a good rest of your evening.
Bye, y'all.